Okay, so episode 10, we've reached a milestone. We're 6 months in. Very special guest. Today we have Jourdan Travers. She is a licensed clinical social worker, and she is also the clinical director of Awake Therapy. Last but not least, she's also the creative mind behind Awake Therapy's psychoeducational videos on YouTube and Instagram. She has a unique approach. I mean, it's warmth, wit, and evidence-based insight. When I tell you she is one of the most relatable mental health educators online today, it is not an understatement. In this episode, we're going to get into topics like weaponized incompetence, attachment fears, and even the 4 horsemen of the relationship apocalypse. She's going to give us the tools every couple needs, not to just survive, but to thrive. So please join me in welcoming Jourdan Travers to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So first, we just want to say we discovered your work recently. We discovered the YouTube channel and Awake Therapy recently. And I don't know how often you hear this or if you're a part of the team responding to the YouTube comments, directly, but we've been watching the videos. We've been trying to comment on things. It's like Alexa's been listening from the kitchen. You know what I mean? Like it's so relatable and so relevant. We just want to say that, that it's you guys have been doing great work, and we want to start by saying thank you.
I appreciate that. And I'm glad to hear and know that the content that we're creating is resonating with you. That's our whole goal, because when we know better, we can do better. And so we really stand by the belief of, power to the people, and the more knowledge we have, the better we can be.
The things that you touch on in the YouTube videos are identical to what I go through, to what Bob's been going through. And I think the full breadth of what we've been able to watch so far has been spot on with, things that are helping us every day. So we wanted to say thank you for that. If you wouldn't mind, just give us a brief introduction about yourself and your organization.
Sure. So, my name is Jourdan Travers. I am the clinical director and co-founder of Awake Therapy. It's a practice my husband and I started. It wasn't something it was never this plan. It was never a goal that we aspired to do or to create. It just evolved from COVID. I was working in hospitals at that time. COVID hit. My children were very young at that time, kindergarten and daycare. Okay. So, and I was doing private practice on the side and experiencing some frustrations. And how Awake Therapy came to be was my husband, who is a psychologist. He's a social psychologist. He had said, Jourdan, I bet there are other therapists like you who feel this same way. We should reach out to them. We should see if they're interested in starting something. And so that is how Awake Therapy came to be and exist. And we have other therapists on our team from different states. But I would say for me, I have had the privilege of working in a variety of different settings: residential treatment, outpatient, child welfare, you name it. And one thing that I had observed in my practice is, so many people just don't know. And there is this feeling of like a paywall, right? Of getting therapeutic information or insight. And we wanted to break that as quickly as possible. So Awake Therapy is similar to BetterHelp, but different in that it's similar because it's a teletherapy platform, and we're able to charge reasonable and affordable rates because we don't have the overhead of office space and utilities. And so we like to make things as streamlined and simple as possible. There's no subscription. We don't hold patients' credit card information, any of that. You find one of our therapists on the team, whether it's me or someone else. You can see our booking link, and patients or prospective patients would select a day and time, and that's it. We try to streamline it and make it as simple and easy as possible. And it gives individuals, it's an honor of an individual's right to self-determination, right? Like we know when we need to talk to somebody. And the truth is, we might know that we want change, but we don't know how that change is going to impact us, how we are going to change in wanting that change. And so I have some patients that, holidays can be really tough. Maybe they have to be around a family member and they need some accountability. We offer half-hour sessions for that purpose. Sometimes people just need a touch point. They just need to process or hear somebody else say like, okay, you've got this. Let's talk about what's going on. And we also do 60-minute sessions, which are 10 minutes more than a traditional therapeutic hour. And people have commented, they've said, wow, these are really reasonable, like affordable rates. Are you sure everyone is licensed and able to meet that demand to provide therapy? And we do. All of our providers are fully licensed, but that's important for us. We want to make therapy accessible for anyone, whether you're a single mom living in Mississippi or you're an executive in Manhattan.
When you're in traditional therapy, you do feel like you're locked in. You feel like it has to happen every week, right? And when you read that on the website, that you can stop and start whenever you want, and you're putting the power in their hands, you might need 20-minute reassurance. You might need the full. Sometimes a lot happens in that last 10 minutes when you get cut off at the 50-minute mark, right? So the ability to dictate all of that as the patient, I thought that was a really awesome way to handle just the sessions in general.
My goal is to become as obsolete as soon as possible, right? Isn't this kind of trough? I want us to talk about these issues, to practice skills, to learn effective ways to navigate what it is that you're going through. And that's it. And maybe you need to come back because something else has come up, or maybe you like therapy and feel like it's a part of your self-care and you want to do that, weekly or monthly, but it isn't a life sentence. You can, like you said, Joe, you can come in, you can leave whenever you want. And we also want to be mindful too of people's financial constraints, right? Times are changing, things are different, and we're mindful of that. We don't want people to feel like they're priced out of talking to someone. And for many people who have insurance, sometimes it's taking them weeks, even months to see a provider. And when we're in need to talk to somebody, we're in need to talk to somebody.
Well, I think that's a huge benefit, right, Jourdan? I mean, in today's world, I think people are just naturally untrusting of the healthcare system or anything that has to do with mental health, physical health, because we all believe that it's money oriented, right? It's all based on financial things nowadays. First thing you said was, it's about when you need the therapy. I think that establishes trust right from the beginning, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. No one knows what you need better than yourself. Right? People who try to house themselves as I'm the expert, you need to listen to me. No, I am in the words of Irvin Yalom, a very, very famous older psychotherapist, I am a fellow traveler walking along this journey with you. And let's talk about the things that you might not feel safe or comfortable talking about with other people, which makes sense, right? So there's this stigma that coming to therapy means that there's something wrong with you, right? If you're going to therapy, whoa, that means like you're an issue. And that is actually not true at all. What it demonstrates going to therapy is that you want to get better, right? You know that something isn't right, something doesn't feel right, and you may or may not currently have the skills to navigate that situation. And so coming to therapy is opening the door for some dialogue, right? People who don't go to therapy, it doesn't mean that they're perfect. That's an entirely separate conversation, right? But coming to therapy does not mean that there's something wrong with you. It's just a space to talk openly and honestly about thoughts and feelings you might not feel safe sharing with those closest to you.
Absolutely. And I agree. I think sometimes it's easier to open up to strangers, to people you don't know. I think therapy or getting help in a mental capacity or a mental aspect, you have to get over that judgment, right? People judging you. And when somebody doesn't know you, I feel like, for me anyway, I would go into that situation automatically knowing that they're not going to have a judgment of me because they don't know me.
Right. Absolutely. And, a lot of times those fears that we have that they're going to think some type of way about me, those are the fears that we have of ourselves that we're projecting. Like, they're going to feel this way about me. It's like, well, no, they're not going to feel this way about me. The truth is I feel this way about me. And so maybe I need to talk about that. Like, why do I feel this way about myself?
If I don't know how to build a deck, there's no stigma in hiring a contractor, right? So if I can't overcome a handful of things, why is there an issue, reaching out to awake therapy, right? I definitely think it's gotten better over time, but there's still a stigma with therapy in general. And if you're offering value and doing the best you can to help, you should become obsolete. I mean, that I've never heard anybody say that before. That's such a great way to put it. we're not going to beat this to death for the next 8 years, right? We're going to help you overcome this thing and come back when you need more help with something different, right? I mean, I think that's a great way to approach it.
And I also think too, our philosophy of approaching it that way is there is a lot of stigma and there is a fear, that, okay, you're keeping me on as a patient because I'm buying your dinner, right? Like you're relying on the income that I'm providing you. And that is not our goal. That is not our intent or my intent. It's teaching you the skills or talking about these things in a safe and supportive environment for you to feel empowered to start doing it on your own, and maybe talking about the fear of like why you've been afraid to do that, or even learning some language. Many people come to therapy, they don't even have the words or the language to describe what they're feeling or experiencing. And that's not uncommon, especially with passive aggressive behavior. You see that I'm getting passive aggressive because I don't have the words to say, I don't like that. I don't want to do that. It hurts my feelings when, fill in the blank. So I get emotionally reactive, or I respond in a passive aggressive way because that's my way of trying to communicate displeasure. It's not an effective form of communication, but something doesn't come from nothing, right? We've learned that from someone, whether it was our parents, teacher, whomever. And so for us to do something different, we have to learn something different.
One of the first things that brought us into your work, into your husband's work and awake therapy is weaponized incompetence. So you've described it as a dance, right? A relational dance more than something that's deliberate. And so psychologically, I'm curious what can happen early on in someone's life that tends to set them up to then later check out of those household roles or to lend themselves to being incompetent.
Can I stop you right there, Joe, for 1 second? Let's also make sure we explain what weaponized incompetence is.
Sure. So weaponized incompetence, right? Kind of feeling like, oh, I can't do it. I don't know how to do it, right? This kind of hands in the air. Oftentimes you see it used in explaining like household chores or maybe even caretaking or caregiving duties, with diaper changing. Oh, I don't know how to change a diaper. I've never had to do that before. You do it, right? Or I don't know how to clean window seals. Fill in the blank. You're better at it than me. Can you do it? So it's this dance of, I don't really want to do it, but I may or may, I might not feel comfortable or confident to say that I don't want to do it. And I haven't seen other men or women or whomever doing this, activities. So I'm just going to throw my hands up and say, no, I'm not going to do it. I will say there is kind of this gender stereotype that it's just men who do it with women's work, but that's not the case. I've seen women also do weaponized incompetence when it comes to things like finances and taxes or books. They're like, oh, I never learned how to do that. It goes both ways, right? We're calling a spade here. It's not, we all have to be on the same page. And weaponized incompetence, it doesn't just hurt men or women, it hurts men too, right? Because what it is touching on without directly addressing it is patriarchy, in that many men, again, I'll say something doesn't come from nothing. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Many men did not see their fathers or other men doing some of these activities that women are wanting or expecting of their partners. And I'm not here to label it good, bad, right, wrong, right? We were just in a different place societally and culturally at that time. And times, they are changing, and they have changed. And so it's opening the door for some dialogue around this, and to have some awareness, engaging in this dance or having weaponized incompetence. It doesn't mean that it's intentional, right? Sometimes we do it and it's not malicious or vindictive. It's legitimate. I legitimately do not know how to do this. I did not see somebody model this behavior for me. And there might be some legitimate fear. Like if I do it, I might mess up, or what is it that you're expecting, right? It's having a dialogue. And that's the big piece of it, where we have to be talking about these things. We just have to be talking in general.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like, especially in marriage, right? Most problems are from lack of communication. right? Would you agree? I mean, I feel like 95% of the time when there's an argument, after it's cools and it's settled, you sit there and go, shit, this could have been resolved in 5 minutes if I would have just listened. Because I know when I get into an argument, right, I do a lot of the talking. And my wife does the same thing. And I think that's natural in a disagreement, let's just say. We try not to argue as much as have disagreements, right? Healthy disagreements. But I think in any marriage, whether it's weaponized incompetence, like you're saying, like if she asks me to, I don't know, do the laundry, and I don't know how to do it, but I really don't know how to do it. Is she going to believe that, or is she going to get upset? So now I'm yelling at her saying, I really don't know how to do it. She's not listening. All she hears is, I don't want to do the laundry, right? And it's a real issue, so to speak, in all marriages that can be resolved extremely easily if you just communicate and follow some simple steps.
Absolutely. And also too, we had gotten in contact because you guys saw the article on Forbes. And one of the examples was around housework in terms of, I'm asking my partner to maybe help me with something. They don't know how. Is that adding more work on my plate? Well, I want to give a caveat to that and say there's open dialogue around that too, right? I wouldn't ask my husband, my spouse, to do like I know what he's good at and I know what I'm good at. And we know those things about each other because we've had dialogue around it. We've had conversations around it. And so if my spouse is saying, I don't know how to do that, okay, that's fine. I'll do it. But here are the other items and things that are on my to-do list today. Would you mind running to the store for me or doing X, Y, whatever instead, just so if I need for it to feel a bit more equitable. But we would have dialogue around that. I wouldn't expect him to do things that I know I'm naturally better than him at, and vice versa. Again, because sometimes people read articles and think, oh, well, how do you solve this? You solve it by talking about it. You can't fix anything that you're not willing to address or to discuss.
But from the perspective of the partner who's doing it unintentionally, how do you begin to talk about something you don't even know is taking place in the first place?
Great question. It would require us to share the observation, right? Of the partner to say, I've observed that when I ask you to do X or Y or Z, you say, I don't know how to do it, or I can't. Why is that? Right? Let's talk about that. I would say to have it in as much as you can, a calm and neutral voice, right? So coming at somebody when you're angry and your voice is starting to raise, that is not going to end well, right? Anybody who nobody likes to be yelled at, whether you're a child or an adult, because when someone is yelling at you, whatever they're saying is going in one ear and out the other. What you're focused in that moment is, am I okay? Are they okay? Is something about to happen? Do I need to be worried if something is going to happen? So while you might have you might feel really strongly and be in a heightened state. We call that an emotionally dysregulated state. You could say, right, wait, I want to talk about this with you later tonight, or in the morning over coffee, can we talk about something that I've observed recently? Trying to open the door for dialogue, because we're going to get defensive regardless. That's a part of human behavior. Anytime someone is wanting to discuss problematic behavior or a behavior that isn't sitting well with them, human nature is we're going to defend, we're going to deflect. So the way to navigate that is, how can we have an open and honest dialogue without name calling, without passive aggressive insults or labels, of just saying, hey, this is something I've observed. Can we talk about this?
Now, how often would you say, the two things they say that usually drive marriages to end, right, or finances and lack of sex, right? Those are the two things typically. How often would you say that you see in your work that this unwillingness to kind of sit down and talk about the things that you can't work out Because like you just said, a lot of people just walk away from these things, right? You don't resolve these disagreements. How often would you say that the lack of willingness to actually sit down and do that is what drives a wedge in between marriages?
It's a lack of communication, a lack of not wanting to talk about it is a huge percentage. I would say too, there's this kind of myth, stigma. I'll see women come into couples therapy with their spouse, their partner, and I think they have this idea that they're going to share what's happening in that situation and that I'm automatically going to side with them, that couples therapy is going to be shaming or guilting their partner or spouse into being a better person. And couples therapy isn't that way at all. And if that is what someone experiences, if that's what you're experiencing in couples therapy, then you need to find a different couples therapist, because that is not effectual, right? You can't bully someone in to changing, right? It takes two to tango. No one lives in a vacuum. We are not, nothing happens in isolation. And so it's talking about that dynamic. Like, okay, well, what's your part in this role, right? What is this dance that you two are doing? And the only way for us to dance differently is if we introduce new choreography into the routine.
That was a great explanation. Thank you. It really just hit me, because I was sitting here thinking to myself about, you know what, I wonder if my wife and I could use a session. But then it hit me that in therapy, right, or in any type of setting, they call them breakthroughs, correct? Mm-hmm. Well, I think the people who don't have those breakthroughs on their own are the people who then should probably go have a therapy session. I know that, for example, if me and my wife have a disagreement, my wife and I think I'm right for 5 minutes, but then she leaves the room and I realize I'm wrong. There was my breakthrough. I realized, you know what? She's absolutely right. I will go and seek her out and speak to her and say, hey, listen, you were wrong. You were correct. I was wrong. I'm looking at this the wrong way. I'm selfishly looking at it. I wasn't looking at it from your side. That was the breakthrough we had on our own, where there are couples who unfortunately don't have the ability to do that. Correct?
I would agree. And I touched on patriarchy just because of the fact, we are conditioned such that we see different roles, right? Okay, like this is what dads do. This is what moms do. This is what's expected of me as a woman or as a man or whatever. And the truth is that we're all different, right? We all have different wants and different needs, and expecting someone to fulfill a role that they have no interest or an activity, let's say activity, right? That they have no interest in, that naturally just doesn't come to them, right? It's kind of beating a dead horse, a horse that's already dead, right? It's like, okay, this is ineffectual. This isn't going to get us where we want to be. So if this isn't working for me, right? How can we maneuver this? How do we navigate? What are some duties that I have on my list that I can offload to them and vice versa? And I think there's too this myth with equality, right? It's got to be 50-50 all the time. No, right? Yeah, yes. And on average, it comes back to 50-50, but on a given day for it to be 50-50, that's not realistic, right? Sometimes it's 80-20. Sometimes it's 60-40 or 90-10, back and forth, right? It's having communication with your partner around like, hey, I've got a lot on my plate right now, or maybe something is going on, or I could use your help. And that's a big part of it too. The question of how comfortable are you in asking for help? Many people are not comfortable asking for help for a variety of reasons, but exploring that, right? Can you ask for help? In what contexts and domains? Because the truth is that all relationship issues are childhood issues in disguise. We bring all of our past with us, those childhood experiences, our past relationship experiences, and that baggage plays out again in our current partnership, depending on the context and the dynamic. So we have to talk about it. It's a really provocative idea, this thought that I'll just walk away, I'll just leave it and it'll all get fixed. Absolutely not. Wherever you go, there you are. And those same issues you were experiencing in those other relationships, they're going to follow you. They're going to come with you until you figure out, why is this happening?
Do you feel like some couples or some individuals in the partnership don't believe that it's truly unintentional? In other words, Bob's example of the laundry, that's a great example. But a woman in her 40s might not believe that a man in his 40s can't master that type of a task. And so I think the challenge for some of us is you don't know what's happening. You don't know what to ask for. You don't know how to overcome it. But the other individual is frustrated at it's been going on for so long like this. It can't possibly be unintentional, et cetera, et cetera. So how do you get through to the point where someone is training, someone is learning, and you can start to make progress there?
So I would say in that example you shared, it doesn't sound like the laundry is the issue. It sounds like, oftentimes when people come to therapy, what they think the issue is, the primary issue, isn't the primary issue. That's often tertiary, right? There's something else driving and propelling that argument, that behavior, where, okay, I'm going to focus on the laundry because that's easy to focus on and to say, well, you're messing up, you're not doing what I want. No, what's going on for that to be the issue, right? Like, is there extra stress? Have things happened financially? What has changed, right? Because clearly there's something happening propelling that. And it's opening dialogue around it. And oftentimes it's not even the person that doesn't know how to do the laundry. It's kind of the trauma. And I do use the word trauma of what the other person has experienced in their life, of what they saw growing up between their mother and father or whomever. What was that communication? What were those expectations? And exploring that together. And asking ourselves, right, how can we be better for each other? Really, as humans, every human, we want three things. We want love, support, and compassion. And what is getting in the way for us as a spouse, as couples, to be able to provide that to each other? What's really going on here? Yeah, what's the underlying issue? Exactly.
There is an underlying issue. And what I mean is, let's say Joe's spouse is constantly nagging him about the laundry or doesn't believe that he can't do the laundry, but isn't constantly getting upset about other things. In my mind, then that would tell me there's no underlying issue, that the spouse really doesn't believe that he knows how to do the laundry, correct? Or am I overthinking that?
No, if we were to stay within that example, that premise, that there would be validity in that. But then it would be a conversation of, hey, I legitimately don't know how to do this, or I'm not good at it. What is something that I can take off of your plate? What one or few items to where this wouldn't be so much of an issue, right?
Yeah.
Is it really the laundry, or is it that you feel like I'm not present and I'm not pulling my weight or my fair share around the house, and that you might not feel safe, emotionally safe or comfortable to share that with me? So you focus on the laundry because that's easy. It's easy to say it's the laundry.
Now, here's the other question. Now, is it also easier for the spouse in question then to not ask that question because they don't want to know the answer?
That is also part of it, right? What are the things that we're not talking about?
Right? Like, are we staying on the laundry because, for example, I don't want to ask my wife, hey, do you feel like I'm not present? Is it easier for us to debate and have discussions about weaponized incompetence with the laundry than it is to have an actual conversation about what's going on in the marriage?
Exactly. It's the elephant in the room. Let's do this dance so we don't have to address that there is a huge elephant looking at the both of us, and we're not ready, willing, or interested in addressing the elephant in the room at this time.
If I can't master X, Y, and Z, and there's a challenge with learning that from your partner, then what other things can I help out with and take off your plate that I am good at, right? You talked about having that conversation with your spouse about, these are my strengths, these are your strengths. And that didn't occur to me before today, right? Maybe instead of trying to learn the thing that I can't learn at this point,
There we go.
that I am good at. So you were saying that everything stems from your childhood, and if there was trauma at an early age, that obviously complicates things. But as an example, if a woman goes 10 years being incompetent and the husband doesn't have the ability to articulate that or doesn't want to articulate that for whatever reason, could that be adding to his trauma? Could that experience be traumatic in and of itself for him over that decade?
Sure. And I'm actually going to self-disclose a bit here too, because I feel like there's a really great personal example between me and my spouse that would help illuminate this point really well. So I grew up single parent household. I did a lot of cleaning and taking care of things as a child. I don't particularly enjoy cleaning. It's not something that I love to do. I'll do it. I don't want to do it. And I've always said, let's get a house cleaner. Let's get someone to help. I can do some surface level stuff, but I don't want to be on my off time deep cleaning and picking up after everyone, because I felt like that's what I was doing in my childhood. It was just constantly picking up everybody else's messes. Because my husband was like, oh, why weren't you, can you just wipe this? Can you do this? I'm like, I don't want to. I don't want to do this. I don't like doing this. I would rather do anything else but this. And so we had dialogue around it. For him, he didn't care. He's like, oh, you don't want to do that? That type, you don't want to clean the bathrooms? That's fine. I'll do it. I have no problem doing it. And he's like, and if I get tired of doing that, then we'll get a house cleaner. Great. That was the conversation. I was very honest. I do not want to do this. I feel like when I'm doing this, and 6-year-old me wiping things down and I'm stuck. And that is such a terrible feel. I don't want to feel that way. I don't like feeling that way. And so if there's a way for me to not have to revisit those painful, traumatic memories, I'm going to do that, right? I'm going to delegate. I'm going to explore other options. We couldn't get there as a couple without having that conversation. That requires some self-reflection, some self-awareness, and that also requires some vulnerability. I have to be willing to be vulnerable to share, hey, this is how, when you ask me to do this clean, this is how it's landing for me. And I know it's frustrating for you. It's frustrating for me. How do we get to a place where this is a non-issue for us? Because I'll tell you, as couples, and this is an exercise. This is a good exercise that I do with patients. We often have the same arguments over and over and over again. They're cyclical. And I hate to tell you, the things that we loved about our spouse or partner when we met them, those are the things we end up loathing about them, later in life, especially if there is an argument you're having over and over again. Write it out, right? What is the argument? What is the situation? I will share again. So we have our families are both interfaith, Jewish and Christian. So it was with Christmas, right? Okay, do we have lights? Do we not have lights? If we have them, are they multicolor or are they blue and white? Do we have them in North? And it was a constant argument about this. And so we wrote it out. I said, okay, this is my perspective and opinion. This is your perspective and opinion. What is a happy medium here, right? If we're going to have lights, okay, fine. What color? I don't care. Are we also going to have a menorah? We wrote it out. We wrote out what we felt like the best solution was, and then we talked about it. But it's coming to the table with a solution versus coming to the table of, I'm just going to attack you because you're not doing what I want you to do, and I'm getting pissed, and now I'm going to act like a petulant child and throw a temper tantrum over it. That's not effectual.
Or be quiet and let the other person have their way, but then become resentful and upset and hold all that in. But it's a lot of work to do that with every issue and everything that arises in every facet of the marriage. And that's the hard part, right? If it was easy, everybody would have it licked.
There's no such thing as an easy relationship, right? Damn you, Disney, right? We saw as kids, right? It always ended before like the 2000s. It's like you're riding off into the sunset. They never happily ever after. Okay, well, what comes after happily ever after, right? We weren't seeing Disney show us dialogue around duties, right? It was this fantasy, right? It was this provocative idea that you just meet that person, they're your one, and then everything is figured out and you don't have to have hard conversations. And that's just simply is not true. That's not realistic.
Yeah. And like, Leave It to Beaver, the Cosbys, even outside of this, everything was, and I do agree that I think after the virus, the lines got blurred way more, right? Women are mowing the lawn and men are doing laundry, or their daughter's hair or whatever. I think the fact that everybody is much more remote now. I am doing laundry in between Zooms. I never did laundry before. You know what I mean? I'm prepping dinner where it was always on the table when I got home before the virus. So it's interesting that everything kind of started for you with awake therapy after the virus, because that's really when so much changed, and something like this was necessary for a lot of people.
Absolutely. You know, there's few moments in history where it's like, okay, everything changed. Coronavirus is one of those where it's like, okay, there was a very clear demarcation and line between life before COVID and after. But prior to that, the only other things that come to my mind were, you know, the housing crisis, the financial crisis in 2008, maybe for some people, but it was really like 9/11, right? Everything changed after 9/11, right? The way security, TSA, getting on planes. So there are these moments in life that globally change everything. And COVID was one of those. Yes.
To your point about what happens after happily ever after, let's say we are having conversations about each of these different things, right? We've identified which love language we have. We're talking through weaponized incompetence for a couple that is on the right track with whatever their issues might be. And maybe that's an individual or a couple who stops coming back. How do they stay away, so to speak, from your services? How does that your family unit stay on the right track? How do you navigate not falling back into those old patterns?
That's also a great question. I would say communication is key, but also support and resources. I'm going to say something that many people haven't heard, and I know many women get upset when they hear someone say to them, but it's true. It is not your spouse's job to make you happy. That is an inside job. That is internal work. And if you are expecting that's your spouse's duty, you make me happy, that's your goal, that's your job, is to make me happy, that is a very slippery slope, because it's essentially saying I am entirely dependent on you to bring me joy and fulfillment. And that is robbing you of the ability to do that and learn that for yourself. And so I would say the couples that I see that are the happiest and the healthiest are those that are able to come together as a couple, but are also doing things for themselves, for their own pleasure and enjoyment and in their own growth, right? And is your partner someone that is propelling you and supporting you in growing and learning new things? I mean, that's a big part of it too, right? How can we support each other to be better versions of ourselves? And the only way that we can do that is for us to take responsibility for our lives.
That's amazing. I saw in one of the videos where did you say self-kindness makes you more attractive?
Yes.
That's kind of what you're referring to, right? The couples who happy has to be in here and in here, and I can't get it from the outside world, whether it's my spouse or my children or anyone else.
Absolutely. And it's what it is too is, you know, maybe I'm struggling and I'm not feeling happy, but I don't know what to do to change that. Well, have some dialogue with your partner around it, right? I'm really struggling right now. There's this provocative idea that, okay, well, their problems are their problems and my problems are my problems. No, if a problem is a problem for your partner, it's a problem for you. Not that it's your responsibility to solve it or fix it, but you're going to be impacted by it. You're going to feel it. You're going to notice it. And so have some conversation and dialogue around it. You know, it looks like you're really struggling right now. Do you want to talk about it? Do you need to talk to somebody? How can I help you? How can I support you as you navigate this path? But it is your path, right? I cannot take that from you, right? The road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? We can sit here and think of the kindest, most loving and thoughtful way to share our thoughts and feelings or observations. But the truth is, like, once we say it, it's out of our control. It's up to them, right? It's going to land however it lands.
Right.
And we can have some dialogue around it. And yes, as partners, we want to make our partner happy. We want to bring them joy. We want to have those shared experiences together. But we also have to know that that's not our job. That's not our responsibility. And we want to support our partner in figuring that out and finding that out for themselves, right? We can be supportive, but we cannot
do it for them.
We can't
Right.
do it for them.
I think that's the key, supporting them through, but you can't do it for them. And it's not until both of you reach a happy place, so to speak, right, that you can start to feel like you're overcoming some of these things.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Jourdan, we appreciate you making time for us. Thank you very much. So you're on YouTube and Instagram, right? Where can people find you online?
That's right. YouTube and Instagram. We also have a website, therapytips.org. All of the articles we've published on Psych Today, on Forbes, on CNBC are housed there because we know, Forbes, other companies, they have a paywall, right? You can only get so many free articles a month typically. Our website, all of the articles we've written are free of charge. We also have personality tests or tests that people might want to explore in terms of relationship satisfaction, job satisfaction, just as a way for us to get to understand and know ourselves better. And all of the resources we provide on Therapy Tips are free of charge. We don't take a cut. It's not behind a paywall. None of that. It's if you want to know, you can check on the website. We probably have an article about the topic, and it's a way to kind of explore and deep dive and reflect on, maybe this is an issue for me. And we hope to facilitate that type of self-reflection.
That same website is where folks can reach out if they actually do need help, if they want to start their first session and find a therapist that fits their needs, correct?
Well, so that's a great question also. So no, our website for booking is awaketherapy.me, and we offer free consultations. All consultations are free of charge because maybe you want to try it out and you think this might be good for you, but I might not be the right fit, or another therapist on our team might not be the right fit. We do a 15 to 30 minute phone consultation to talk about this, to talk about what's going on, and to also see if we are the right resource for them. And if not, we provide them with resources that they can explore on their own. And if they decide to come back, they can do that too. So there is no financial commitment. We don't have people on like a ball and chain of, oh, now you have to book and you have to pay this amount of money. Absolutely not. It's just opening the door for a deeper conversation.
I think that's fantastic. We want to become obsolete, free consultation. I mean, those are the things that kind of show you what type of organization it is, right? Those things speak volumes to the kind of people that are behind the scenes and the help that folks are going to get. Jourdan, we can't thank you enough. I appreciate you making some time. I appreciate you writing back to our original email. You definitely have some new friends. And like I said in the beginning, we appreciate what you and your company are doing for everyone. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Joe. It was an absolute pleasure. And I hope I get the privilege of coming back on.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Thank you very much. We'll be in touch. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.